Welcome to another episode of Peep and Eep, an EIP dedicated video series. Today's guest is Greg Colvin. Greg is a founder member of the Fellowship of Ethereum Magician and has been an EIP editor for over 4 years, I guess. It's an honor to have you with us, Greg. You have been a great supporter of the series and have participated with other speakers multiple times. But I'm not sure if we know enough about you, like your background, your first engagement with Ethereum community, etc. So let our audience know more about you.
Yeah, I've been in the industry for longer than I can remember. Yeah, first programmed a computer in '75. And I got pulled into Ethereum by Meng some years ago, 2015, I think. I'm not exactly sure when I was invited to be an EIP editor, but it was relatively early on and at a time when we worked out a fair amount of the current process. And so that's where I'm coming from on that.
Was that actually one of the original rounds of the EIP editors? Like, were you in that first cohort?
No, there was an earlier cohort. I'd have to actually check EIP 1 for the full list.
I think you appeared there. Does EIP 1 actually have a list of the originals, like as originals?
It has a list of everybody who is, or pretty much has been an editor. I don't. It's pretty much anybody with right permissions to the EIP repository.
Do you know how the... Oh, sorry, what were you going to say? I didn't mean to...
The fundamental distinction is whether you have right permissions to the repository.
Yeah, I guess that probably could actually be the technical definition of an EIP editor now.
Yep.
Yeah. Do you know how the original group of EIP editors was chosen? Was it just sort of a natural social decision?
I think a few people decided that there needed to be EIPs. And I wasn't part of that first 2 or 3 people, so I don't know.
Mm-hmm. Going forward, like, for you, for instance, what was the process of being onboarded as an EIP editor? Was it as simple as someone inviting you in and getting the permissions?
Somebody invited me in, Hudson, I think, or Nick Johnson, or both.
Mm-hmm. Has it become more difficult to become an EIP editor since then? I feel like it's been I seem to remember in a different conversation with you, we maybe highlighted that it's been a long time since an EIP editor has been onboarded.
There's been few enough of us, and we've gotten too busy to even onboard people. So we brought on Nika recently, and I had trouble getting the other EIP editors together online. And I think at some point I just said, Nika, you're an editor. And then the others were like, you should have asked. And I'm like, well, I tried to ask. And they're like, well, it's okay. But generally, it's by consensus of the other editors.
Has it gotten more difficult with Ethereum getting larger and more complex and higher stakes?
No. Well, the work has gotten more difficult. Yes, there's more EIPs to deal with.
I'd actually had meant in the context of onboarding new editors. So you're saying there's not much of I guess, fear or concern about letting people in who might be disruptive in some way?
All right, I don't know how to answer that question. If people want to be an editor, and if there's a lot you can do to help without right permissions to the repository. Just look around and there's a lot you can do. The editors work on just helping people work on proposals and get them ready for final call. And you don't need right permission to go to a PR and start commenting on the PR and helping somebody get it together. You don't need right permissions to go to the magicians and participate in discussions there. Things like that. And someone like McCaw starts doing that. Alex, who's an editor now, he just showed up and started going down the list of issues that were just sitting there and pull requests that were just sitting there and providing us lists of ones that were ready to merge, and then I would merge them. And at some point, it's like, why isn't an Alex an editor so he can just merge them? And we agreed that he should be, and he was.
So if I could rephrase that in different wording, you're saying that the original EIP editors had a number of responsibilities, and perhaps the definition was the right permissions on the repo, but there are a number of different jobs that are associated with that. And as a way into, so to speak, the EIP curation community, there are a number of tasks that need to be performed that the EIP editors themselves are overtaxed on. And that's sort of like an entry into the community, so to speak.
Yeah, we need to do a better job of making a community of that. Right now, we're hanging on the Jitter channel there. I don't know if we're going to continue to hang out there or move to a Discord that a lot of people are on.
Yeah, the Ethereum R&D Discord does seem to be pulling in like the majority of the technical discussion at this point. I don't know about EIP editors specifically. But,
The Jitter is nicely integrated with GitHub, and we've been on it for a long time, but it's a discussion that we haven't had yet. We do need more of a community, just because there are things that people can help with that don't require an editor to do.
You mentioned a couple, and I'm aware of a couple of initiatives through the cat herders, but in the interests of conversation, maybe we could try and disambiguate a few of those. You mentioned with Alex, by the way, do you mean Alex Bergazasi?
Yes.
Is that the right Alex?
Axie.
Okay, fine.
Yeah.
That he would look at outstanding issues and then make the changes, make the PR, and wait for you to merge. So,
well, rather he'd look at the PRs, see that they were ready to merge, and then let us know. Go ahead and merge these; they're up to snuff.
Okay. So I'm glad. So you're saying that is one entry point would be even streamlining the process, highlighting what's ready for merge, what's not ready for merge.
Yeah.
I think as a part of the EIP group, we are like the cat herders and the hardware coordinator and many other people have joined together to streamline this process of EIP. And they are also looking forward to document the process of onboarding the EIP editors. So I think your input here could be quite valuable in the sense of like who could be the right person. As you mentioned, the people who shows up and start putting things together in terms of highlighting issues which can be or cannot be merged. But has there been any instances in past or be like there can be some kind of consensus issue, like one editor thinks that it is good to be merged and another does not agree? How do we handle this kind of situation?
It mostly, excuse me a sec. Don't want to cough into that live mic. It hasn't come up a whole lot. There was one unfortunate time when Yoichi-san did not want to merge the EIP for lost funds because he believed it would put him crossways with Japanese law. And they're actually jailing programmers in Japan that they believe are hacking in some way. And others of us felt obligated to merge it because it met our standards. And as an American with First Amendment rights, I did not feel afraid of the law. And he actually resigned as an editor over the issue. And he continued to volunteer on things that didn't require actually merging. But that was unfortunate. But that wasn't a disagreement between ourselves. It was a personal issue for Yoichi-san.
I understand that part. I have also seen a few EIPs which are outstanding for a while, and I saw a few comments by a few of editors saying that, okay, fine, I find it okay, but I'm not agreeing to this part. If anybody else would want to merge, go ahead and do that. But that sits
Mhm.
for a very long time. Is there any kind of internal communication among the editors, like how to proceed with any particular proposal?
Internal communication's been bad. I think we've all just gotten really busy. Those who are working for pay on the project just get busy at that work, and those of us who've been volunteering only have so much time to volunteer. So we need to get better on that, and also on responding directly to authors. For any well, for all of us as editors, we either have jitter tags or emails listed. So to some extent, as an author, you've got to take some initiative to contact the editors and just say, hey, I think this is ready to merge. I disagree with this one editor, but he's okay with somebody else merging it, so will someone else merge it? And so that's the answer on a number of things, is authors just need to take a little initiative to push their EIP through the process.
Yeah, that's a good way. I mean, like, general understanding that they might be having some kind of internal communication to, kind of these conflict resolving things. But as an
Well, EIP 1 has that list. And we can make it more clear that, yeah, if you wind up with that situation, it's not likely actually that the objecting editor is going to have time to contact the other editors and say there's an issue here. Does someone want to deal with it? It's pretty likely to just sit there until the author makes a move to find another reviewer.
So in your experience, does any kind of scheduling will help, like bringing all the editors on one page and see which proposal has been looked by some of the editors?
We need better communication. The editors need to talk to each other better, which we used to do better when we had more time. And we have to keep an eye on the jitter channel right now, which I've been trying to do to every day or every few days at most, take a look at what's there and try and move it forward. And McCall was real busy there, which is why we invited him to just be an editor, so he didn't have to keep asking me to do things.
I mean, the process is one editor to make a PR. It's not like, I don't know if it does GitHub even, oh yeah, GitHub does support needing multiple signatures for merge, but right now the process just means find any author who's able to merge, any editor who's able to merge, no?
Only any editor has write permission, so any editor can merge it. Any author of a PR in the system can say that certain people have to give it a review before it can be merged. So if there are people whose opinion you want to have before you merge it, you can ask for that within the GitHub PR system.
Is that a common practice with EIPs to tag a specific editor to have them review it?
I'm not sure. It would be more up. It could be anyone. It doesn't have to be an editor. It could be any expert that you want to review a PR before it goes.
Mm-hmm.
Somewhere on GitHub, there's a little box where you say reviewers. And if you click somebody off as a reviewer, they have to approve before GitHub will merge.
Interesting. Okay. So we did sort of discuss the ability to sort of enter, I guess, what we call the community of EIP curation by helping to streamline the process of what needs to be merged and whatnot.
Mhm.
What other tasks do you think community newcomers, people who want to like sort of join the band of EIP curation, what other tasks do you think there are for them to do?
Um, just looking for interesting EIPs to review. I mean,
Mhm.
authors try to reach out, but they don't necessarily know who in the community is going to be a good person for feedback and help. Um,
Mhm.
so if you're interested, just keep an eye on the issues, keep an eye especially on open PRs, and look where the discussion is, and either participate on the magicians to move things forward. If PRs are waiting for review, review the PRs. Um, Send a message to an editor if it looks ready or you need some
Mhm.
help.
Mhm.
It's just not that well defined like a lot of Ethereum stuff. It's just show up, find something that needs to be done and do it. Um,
Uh-huh. I guess one of the things I'm sort of fishing for is not necessarily a strict definition, but ideas. I mean, there were, I think, a few in what you just said. Maybe I'll try and
mhm.
unpack a little bit. One
Thanks.
is creating technical conversation on the fellowship, like on the Magician's Discourse.
Hmm.
Um, so there's generating conversation around EIPs as a way of getting
Right.
peer review on them.
Every EIP's editor has a link to where the discussion is happening.
Mhm. There's looking for people who have a kind of technical expertise can look for EIPs in those fields of expertise and review them themselves, and
Hmm.
then try to draw attention to their readiness.
Yeah.
Um, there is
Also,
actually, yeah.
anyone who speaks English can help with the editing. Um,
Oh, that's a good point. I hadn't thought of that. Just being able to help people who are coming from English as a non-first language background
that can
into,
happen. Yeah.
statistically, it should even happen a majority of the time, I suppose.
Even if one person speaks English, somebody else could be better.
Also true.
Um, I never know where to put commas. Somebody has to fix it.
Yeah. Commas actually get me a bunch also. Uh, Interesting. Um, this is actually a really relatively tangential point. EIPs are written in English. Is there actually a specific English they're written in? Can people write color with a U?
Um, I think the spell checker accepts both English, and American English. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so
Interesting.
one or the other, um, but not not other dialects.
Mm-hmm. Um, I was aware of one other initiative, which I figured I'd mention. I know that there have been cat herders who have tried to go back to like sort of the ancient history of EIPs and go through EIPs that have been open since like the Paleolithic blockchain age, which was like 3 years ago. Uh, and contact authors just to see if they are still interested and see
Hmm.
these sort of stalled and zombie EIPs, see what can be closed and what can be moved forward also.
Yeah,
Um, so I'd assume that might be another good point for coming in. Uh,
yeah. McCaw's been talking about a bot to just look for old ones and close them. Um, but if you can contact the author, it's always nice.
mhm, mhm. Um, what are the reasons that you think the EIPs do sometimes get stuck like that?
Sometimes the author loses interest and goes away. Sometimes they've actually been rejected by the core devs, but they're still sitting there. Um, Sometimes it just takes time. I've I have one EIP that's been in various stages since 2016, and it's just not quite time. So
What would that mean? It's not quite time?
The core devs aren't ready to make that big a change to the EVM. The community's going to need to want it bad enough.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. I definitely have seen that there are certain EIPs that sort of seasonally pop back up again. I suppose it's a similar phenomenon. Community sentiment can change over time. There can be more drastic need if new things are introduced into the ecosystem.
Yeah, I mean, like Prague POW's been proposed in May of 2018, and its status bounces back and forth. But it wouldn't yet be approved. It wouldn't yet be appropriate to just remove it because it's old.
I mean, if we revealed tomorrow that there's a large ASIC cartel that's controlling a significant amount of the hash power, I mean, I believe everybody's view of it would likely change.
There is, but that's another story.
I used the word revealed. Proved so to a large enough population in the ecosystem.
Yeah, we don't have to get into it. It's hard to prove.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
So, talking about the efforts, like I understand doing editing job can be like quite stressful in terms of looking into every detail, the technical details that should be correct, the formatting should be correct. So what do you think, how much effort is needed? Maybe an estimate in terms of per week or per month?
I can't tell you. There's editors that haven't done anything for years, but they're still there. And we haven't bothered to revoke their permissions, and we'd be happy if they became active again. But they're sort of honorary. So really, it's however much time you had to give. So you could show up every few months and there'd be an EIP you were particularly interested or skilled in, and you sort of worked on that, and then you went away for a while. It's not a big deal. It's nobody's paying you to do it, so nobody can make you do anything.
Oh, that was like my next point I was trying to come up over there. So this job has been most of the time voluntarily like done by people. Do you think we can like streamline the process? I mean, not me, I mean like the group that are working towards it. We can also go for like fundraising, and if we can define certain timelines, certain job limits. In my mind, it makes good sense to be paid for the editors as well. What are your thoughts on it, like your experience? And
I don't have a strong feeling there. In most work with technical standards, not many people are paid that directly. They'll often be working for another company in the industry. The company might support them to use part of their time to help with the standard. Usually not all of their time, because they gained and maintained their expertise by actually working in the industry. So to a large extent, they're working on their own time, but it's because they have a company supporting them that can afford to do that. But it's more rare that somebody's just flat out paid to do a job in this kind of thing.
right.
We'd be happy to have such people, but we try and automate it as much as we can.
I suppose that itself would raise the questions of exactly who's footing the bill and what the incentive structure becomes then. No?
Yeah, there's ethics there as an editor. That whatever your source of money, you do what's best for Ethereum, not for your employer. And where there's a conflict, you have to be careful to act ethically there.
So let us know about the challenges that are faced by editors, because this is an open source, like as you mentioned, many people shows up, many people do not, but things has to move on, like EIPs has to be approved and merged. So what are the challenges in the current process?
Oh, the biggest challenge for me in Ethereum has always been JIT. But uh, so
Wait a second. You usually don't use version control?
no, I've used lots of version control over the years. I just find JIT to be the least intuitive I've ever used.
Oh, wow.
But people seem to vary on that.
Uh-huh.
If you've seen the web page that generates phony JIT man pages,
I haven't. I'll have to take a look for it.
yeah, it's there somewhere. It generates phony ones, and they're almost right. You know, it's just this switch takes the upstream of whatever, unless you have a merged remote, in which case, you know, it's just like this is one command. Why doesn't it do just one thing? But the whole notion of this is a wonderful decentralized system, except it all got re-centralized on GitHub. So why am I going through all these hoops to say that it's decentralized? And why is it so hard to just take out one file and change it and put it back? And why is it so hard when I changed a file and changed my mind to restore an earlier version? It's like, it's not actually version control. I don't know what it is. But we don't have to get too far into that. One of the biggest challenges for me is just operating the machinery. So people who are good at that, that helps. And you know, the other challenge is you'll just get EIPs you can't understand because they're outside your technical competence. So you're either looking for another editor to help, looking for other people to help, things like that.
From what you were saying.
Hmm?
Sorry, I hadn't meant to cut you off with that.
I was done.
No.
What
okay.
were you saying?
From what you were saying before, it sounds also like there's been a heavy increase in the pace that EIPs are submitted with. So I'm assuming there's also a bit of a trying to keep up with the fire hose phenomenon. Is that correct?
I'm not sure. I haven't counted. Somebody else might know.
I found myself wanting an infographic for like EIPs released over time, like, you know, what the rate is.
Yeah, I think somewhere GitHub will give you that number. I think for a repo, it makes a graph of how things are coming in. But there is a distinction like between core EIPs and ERCs, because the core EIPs have to go through the core devs, and there's going to be more expertise there, both applied to reviewing them outside the editors. Whereas for a given ERC, there might be a more narrow audience, and the approval process is easier. It doesn't affect the protocol. So it's just a standard. It sits there. It says, if you want to do things this way, here's the details of how to do it. And if we all do it according to these details, then we get along. Whereas if something has to go in their protocol, all of the clients have to agree to do it exactly the same way. All the clients have to implement it. So it's a much higher bar.
Mm-hmm.
This is interesting conversation. Like, I'm enjoying it, getting to know more about insight of how editors and things work around it. So for those who have tuned in for the first time, and generally our conversation is around the Ethereum improvement proposal. We talk and try to take community questions and bring in an author or an experienced person to answer these questions. And on that, I would like to take some suggestions from you, Greg, on for the people who are actually trying to streamline this EIP and EIP editors and other onboarding processes.
I don't know how much more there is to say. We've gone through a lot on that. Um, the core ERC distinction is important. Well, ERC is a good example. It's not part of the core protocol, doesn't affect the clients, but it's an important standard. Everyone who agrees to use it is doing things in the same way. Lots of other programs can make use of the ERC20 standard, but it's not the only way to do that kind of thing. There's other ways to do it. There's other standards for that. So there's sort of a community just around ERC20 and similar token standards. And that's to some extent up to the author to sort of find the other people who are interested in doing that. Because if there aren't other people, why bother?
I don't want to put you on the spot, but I can't let you go without asking this question about one major change that is going, that is like under progress, about separation of EIP, like EIPs for hard fork, network upgrade, and EIPs on technical specification. What are your take on that?
They're definitely different. I don't know what the technical issues are in separating them in the system right now. Beyond there's a status field saying whether it's a core EIP, whether we need to start calling them something different. I don't have a strong opinion there.
That's good, and that's like kind of getting an easy way out, but that's okay, because that is something under process, and I think that the time will tell us what's going to happen with that. We are trying.
I would rather call them ERCs. I just don't know how much pain that might cause to existing systems. So.
Yeah, I think as per my understanding, the separation is for the, the network related and the general EIPs. Yeah, I mean, I'm sorry, are you proposing the rest of the standard should be renamed as ERCs instead of EIPs because they would be removed?
Maybe.
Oh,
it's a discussion we need to have where I don't have really strong opinions, but it's confusing to people, I can see.
Right, that's a different angle. That certainly requires a discussion there. Maybe next time.
Yeah.
Yeah. So with this series, we are trying to let people know about current process of Ethereum, how things move around proposals. If somebody would want to propose something new, we have done an episode on writing of the EIP as well with Matt Lightcline. That is very helpful to understand how one can write a proposal and submit in a way that the author and the EIP editors do not have to push it back and forth, like to do some rework, right? So I find that very helpful. In the same way, like this episode talking about how editors work is quite insightful for people. With that, we have almost reached to the end of the episode, and before we leave, I would like to let people know that Greg has been showing up for this series multiple times, and I hope to see you see you with more and more proposals. In the next episode, we are planning to discuss one of the ERCs, that is EIP 2535, the Diamond Standard Track, with Nick. We have already run an episode with him on the EIP 173, which is actually in the last stage, but last call, but that is there for a while. So if I can bring it to editors' attention, that is something also to be pushed forward. I mean, I'm not saying that you have to merge it just because I'm saying so, but if it's waiting just because of editors to look, give it a look. This may be the end of the episode with Greg, but not with the conversation. I hope to keep on seeing you in many more episodes. I would like to thank you, Greg, and thank you everyone for joining us today. This is Pooja Rangan signing off. See you next week.
Very well.
Bye.